Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about designing on a budget, and I'm John Morgan, and I'm going to be hosting this session. So here are some great tips today that will help you better your business and how you're working with those budget clients. First of all, if you think about budget, most people talk about product because you're trying to keep your customer in a certain price point. They have X amount of dollars to spend, and you have a gazillion things that you have to do within that dollar amount. You have to provide cabinets, you have to provide countertop, appliances, you might be painting and tiling and flooring and all of these other things that you're being asked to do inside of a small budget. So it's really, really challenging. And step one is actually determining the type of products that you can use in that budget. As with anything else, you are going to set yourself apart from other designers, from your competition, by being more knowledgeable. And by being more knowledgeable isn't just, or I don't just mean about design, you got to know your products inside and out. And you have to know what products actually meet the needs. And I can tell you, I've done a lot of work in the industry when it comes from the value point of view when it comes to products and design. And I can tell you that there's a couple of keys that you need to look for. Number one, though your client's working on a budget, they want quality. And there's certainly lots and lots and lots of good products out there where the quality continues to go up even though the price points are going down. That's a value price point. You need to make sure that you're matching the appropriate quality to the appropriate price point. Make sure you're not overselling it, okay? So make sure you match those. Third thing here is trends. One of the cool things about our environment today, and I've been in this business my entire career, and this is the first time since I've been in the business where it's a little bit easier to know what a client wants. Clients in the marketplace have kind of drilled down to really just a handful of popular trends today. For instance, white shaker cabinets, gray shaker cabinets, where it gives us on the design side, the spec side, an easier time to find the type of product because we already know ahead of time what they're looking for. So keep in mind that if you are working with a budget client, focus on those things that are popular because you're probably going to get your better price points in those areas anyway. So focus on the current trend. Next, limit selections. I'm going to talk a little bit in a minute about complexity. Complexity is expensive. Simple is more cost effective. And it's not just simple in the process, but it's simple in selections. If you give somebody 300 selections to go through, guess what you do? You create the opportunity for them to take more and more and more of your time, and your time is very, very expensive. So now you're making the project go up and up and up budget-wise. So if you limit their selections, you limit it into what is trend on at the time, you can do a better job at controlling the costs on that project. Another item, and I'm going to mention this at the very end of the session, some people have heard me speak before, hear me use this term speed to market. It's about products that you can get fast because, again, faster is cheaper. The more time that it takes, the more hands that have to touch it, the more places it has to go, the more places it has to sit and be stored. All of those things are expensive. So you're looking for products that have a time value that is short, or I should say a time that is short, which creates more value at that price point. So these are all keys when you're considering the type of product that you're going to use. And I just mentioned, I like to sum it up with, keep it simple. Simple, simple, simple. Because complexity is costly. So that's a key to us being able to provide budget projects to our customers. Now, another key to this is time. And I'm going to do some things in 2020 here that will talk about how can we help you be more efficient, more effective in what you're doing. Because again, one of the most valuable assets you have is time, and that's expensive when your customer is spending it for you. So you want to make sure that everything you do is not just accurate, but it's fast. I want you to think about something for a second. I'm going to talk mostly about kitchens and baths, but if you think about remodeling a closet, you only have X amount of dollars that you're going to make in remodeling that closet, right? You're going to make a lot more in the kitchen, nearly as much in the bath, but in smaller areas you make less money. So you need to be able to maximize the time that you spend on those areas. Same thing applies to budget kitchens. If you're working with somebody that have a 6-figure kitchen, awesome sauce. You could go in and spend as much time as you want. Actually, you want to control that too, but you could spend a lot more time on it because you're getting paid for that. If it's a budget kitchen, you're not getting paid as much for it. So you need to make sure you control your time because that's what allows you to be profitable. So let me share some tips in 2020 that allow you to manage your time better. First of all, I like to talk about repeating what clients like. And when I mean repeat, I mean repeating design decisions that will allow a customer to speed up that decision cycle, that purchasing cycle. And let me give you a quick tip, something that I like to do. One of the things that I really like to do in my 2020, let me scroll through here. I actually have a 2020 open here. You'll see that I have a plan where I'm going to share some items here. I'm going to move this over to the right for a second. If you look in the lower left-hand corner of my screen, you notice down here in drag and drop, I'm currently in a generic catalog room furniture. I'm going to click on my catalogs and give me a second because I literally have almost 100 catalogs on my 2020. I'm going to go ahead and click on something called My Kitchen Islands. I don't know if you've noticed this in your 2020, but if you scroll all the way to the bottom of the screen, there's something called My Closet, My Kitchens, My Islands. Well, here's how I use these. My Islands, I actually go in here and save my favorite islands. That way, when you're working with somebody, instead of trying to create something new every time, because guess what? That's expensive. Every time you have to spend, your time creating something new, that's more costly. If you want to save money, what you do is save the ideas that you've already used or islands from kitchens that you've already sold, and you can simply take these, like this showroom island. I can drag this over. This is actually in a different catalog, so it's going to ask me 2 questions as we drag it over, and then we'll go ahead and we'll start moving around. There's an island that I can pop into a plan. Or I could drag over another island. I have a 2-person eating area island over here where I can drag that one over. So that gives me the ability to go through and add islands. For instance, I could drag another island over and you'll see it's there. So if you're working with a client, you think about how much it costs. I'm actually going to delete that island from my screen. If you think about how much it costs time-wise for you to go through and spend the time to create that new island, or worse yet, push the decision-making process off of your customer. All of those things cost you money. So if a client comes in today, sits down with you and says, we're really interested in remodeling our kitchen and we wish we could add a new island to it, you could tell them, come back in a couple of days and I'll give you some ideas. Or you could sit with them right now, drag over your favorite ideas, pop them in, let them tell you what they're looking for, make some limited modifications to it, and move to the next step in the decision-making cycle. Because in a budget, you can't afford to delay decisions. You need things to happen fast. Now, you can also create other folders. I actually do this with a lot of products. If we come up to the top here to File, there's a feature here called Idea Center. If I click on Idea Center, I can choose Idea Center Management. And when I choose Idea Center Management, I can create my own folders. You'll see it says Closet Sections, Kitchens, Kitchen Islands. I could come up here and I could choose Bathroom. And I could choose Favorite Bathrooms. And I could come in here and I'm just going to type in bath here as well. I can go through and I can save this and I have a new folder. If you look over here on the left, I will have a brand new folder called Bathroom. Then I can come down here and I can say, all right, I'd like to take a new folder. So let's go down here and say I'd like to go to Add Library. I'd like to say Favorite Decorations. That might be furniture. It might be pictures for the wall. I'm just going to type in deco down here. When I click Save, I'll create a brand new library. And if you notice over here, it's called Favorite Decorations. So I can, anytime that I want, take anything that I've done in any design and simply drag it over and drop it into one of these folders. And I'm going to open my folders up again because I want you to notice there's now a Favorite Decorations folder. So if I go in and place a plant in this kitchen that I love, I can drag it over here and put it in my favorites. And again, what am I doing? I'm reducing my time on the next kitchen because I can drag over my favorites that are going to help me sell this room as a realistic room. It's simply by coming over to one of my favorite folders. That's really, really important in saving time. Now, let's switch back over to PowerPoint. Let's talk about the next item, which is repeating what your company is good at. It's not just the design process, but a lot of times you're saving in the actual installation process. I have one really good friend in the business, and I believe that he's more profitable than others because, as he likes to tell me, he doesn't experiment. He only does what he's already proven works. And what that means is in a budget situation, he's not going out trying a new build-up on moldings. He's not trying a new installation technique, or he's not clipping a corner in a new way or such. He's actually repeating what he knows his installers are good at, what they're fast at, and what he's profitable at. And he saves experimentation for his higher-end jobs. Budget, there's no experimenting. He needs to keep his time in design and his time in installation to a minimum. Next, let's talk about quick access toolbars. I don't know if you do this. This is one of my favorite things to do in 2020. At the top of the screen, you notice that you have a ribbon system. We have all these different tabs with all the different features. Well, there's tons and tons and tons of options, and these are phenomenal when we're working with that higher end customer. But in a budget situation, you need to do the basics. You need to put a wall in. You need to place a cabinet on it. You need to look at the cabinet. You need to know how much that cabinet costs. Well, you can actually set your system up so that it will help your designers walk through the process very simply without having to jump around and do a lot of clicking like I'm doing right now. Let me show you how that works. If I right-click on the ribbon, there's an option here called Minimize. Now, when I click this, I want you to notice something. See this big section of the ribbon? There's also a ribbon at the very top. That's called Quick Access Toolbar. If I say Minimize Ribbon, my ribbon will minimize. And actually, let me move this up. It gives me more room to work. You notice my floor plan's larger. And now I just have the headers. I can always access them if I want to, but they're now hidden unless I click on them. At the top of the screen, though, there's another toolbar. That's called Quick Access. They are what we call one-click features, meaning I just have to click on them once for them to activate. You know, if I click on Open, it opens automatically. If I click on Perspective, it will open a perspective automatically. Now, here's what I suggest you do. I suggest that for you and your team, you customize that toolbar. Let me show you how to do that. If I right-click on my screen right now, there's a feature called Customize Toolbar. Now, where I right-clicked was in the gray area here at the top. So I go to Customize, Quick Access Toolbar, and if you look right here, it'll say Choose Commands. See this name File? That lines up with File. If I clicked on Home, that lines up with Home. If I clicked on Layout, that lines up with Layout. So here's what you do. You go through and you make a list of your favorite features. So if I go to the existing list, everything that's up here on the top is already listed here. So if I go through here, I can actually remove items. I'll say, I don't need Show Drawing Layout. I don't need the separator. I don't need Zoom to Fit. I don't need Zoom Region. I don't need, actually, I'll leave that separator there. I don't need Show Item List. I do not need Cut, Copy, Paste, Delete, or that separator. But I would like to have customer design information, new, open, save, undo, redo, because I use those constantly, perspective, and let's say that we want to go in and add more. Well, I can come down here and continue to add more. So let me go in and say I'm going to put another separator in. I'm just going to click on it and say add. What a separator is it's the lines that divide these icons at the top. So let's go through real quick, and I'll show you my favorite features. So if I go to the very first one, File, I typically go in here and I choose, and by the way, this is going to take me a minute or two to do. I'm going to choose Preview for Floor Plan. This is actually for printing purposes. And then I'm going to go through and click on Separator. Now you're going to go, hey, John, you're talking about saving time, but what you just did took 5 minutes. Yep, but I never have to do it again. Once I set this up, when I'm using 2020, it will have a quick access toolbar that will be efficient for the way you and I are going to work with a budget client. So we'll go through and I'm going to say, let's add a separator in here. So we'll say separator, we'll add that in. Next, I'm going to jump over here and I'm going to choose room layout. We'll go into room layout and we'll choose walls, right? Because we need to draw walls. So we'll say continuous walls. We'll scroll up here. We'll say we need to do basic doors and we need to do basic windows, right? Added them to my list. Let's go back up here again and let's do another separator. Then what we'll do is we'll switch tabs again. What we're really working on is we're taking our favorite features, okay? We're taking our favorite features from all of these options at the top. So I'll go through here and say, okay, I would like to use countertop, wizard. I'm going to add it. I'd like to use items because I have the price, right? So we're going to come down here to styles and pricing. So we're going to come down to styles and pricing. We're going to add it. I'm going to go back up and I'm going to add another separator. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to annotations because I want to annotate my plans. I'd like to add dimensions. So I'm going to do a line-to-line dimension. And I would also like to add notes. So I'll do notes. We'll add notes over here. We'll add another separator to divide it. And then I'm going to go to my last section, which is presentation. Now, presentation would be perspective. That's one of them. I'm not going to move that right now. But the other one that we want to make sure that we have is reports, right? So we'll click add. Now watch. When I click OK, if you look at the top of my screen, I can go up to the top here and I can say I can open, I can save, I can undo, I can redo, I can draw walls, I can place windows, I can place doors, I can place countertops, I can place door styles, finishes with species, I can dimension on my own, I can make notes, I can quote it, and I can look at it. Oh, this is probably 98% of what I'm going to do on my design. So when you and your designers are working, if you really want to save time, you just create your own quick access toolbar and you can work from the left to the right and quickly design a plan. So you can create these on your own. Now let's switch back over here. And by the way, again, reminder, that will stay there from now on. Next, know your modifications. When you're working, if you really want to save your customer money, you need to know how to quickly adjust and make changes to your plan, right? And there's certain features sometimes that take you a little bit longer than you would like. Here's two of my favorite. I get these questions all the time about countertops. There's some really easy solutions, and you need to take the time to make sure you're educated on them, because if you know the solution, it saves you time and it makes you more money, and it allows you to provide a better product at less money to your customer. If we come over here and we take a countertop, let's say I have a countertop and it has that open pie cut that we've all seen. You know, that's a really easy solution. If I right-click on it and I simply go to countertops and I choose edit, I can right-click on that line right there, choose intersect, and simply click on the opposite line. It connects them automatically, and I am done. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to finish that. Now, if I come over here and we look at this countertop, a lot of times you want to extend this bar top. People will literally spend 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes playing with this countertop. This should take you 2 minutes. If you right-click on the countertop and you go into, let me do that again. We'll right-click on the countertop. We'll go to square foot top. We're going to go to edit, just like I did on this top. But this time, when I right-click on that line, I'm going to choose move and intersect. And if I move to the left, you'll notice it's moving to the left. And if you look up here, there's a dimension. As I move to the left, it says -8 13/16. Does anybody know why it says -8 when I move that direction? Good. The answer to that is negative, or the minus, means I moved left. If I move to the right, it's actually positive. If I move up, it's positive. If I move down, it's negative. Don't worry about if it's minus or plus. Just look at the screen. You'll see there's a minus there. So if I move to the left on the keyboard, I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to type in -15 to have a 15-inch overhang. If I take this line right here, highlight it, do the same thing. Again, the command is move and intersect. If I take that line and I move it out, I'll type in -15. There we go. I'll go to the last one. We'll right-click on it. We'll go in here. We'll say move and intersect. I'll move up and I'll say -15. Enter. When I hit escape and come back out of here, guess what? I have made a beautiful, there we go. I have made a beautiful 15-inch overhang on a bat wing island. Pretty cool. If you know those features, you'll save time, which means the design will cost you less money. Next, let's go back to our plan again. Other ways that we can save time. leveraging wizards, both countertop and lighting. We go back over to our plan again. You'll notice at the top of the screen that when I was going through and placing countertops, I actually put countertop wizard here. If we go to items, I'm actually going to show you from the pull-down menu what the items would look like. And you'll see countertop right here, and you'll see lighting wizard. Many of you online with me right now, especially if you're longtime 2020 users, are just going to say, John, countertops and trim is the fastest way to place a countertop. And daggone it, you're right. It is fast. You can click a button, it designs a countertop. But it just does a basic countertop. You might be working with a budget client, but it doesn't mean that they don't want to see an awe-inspiring rendering, right? So we want to do things that still provide them those great results, but take us less time. And that's where the wizards come into place. You know, if I clicked on Lighting Wizard and open it up, I can either click Standard, Deluxe, or Premium and have it automatically place LED lighting around the room, like that. So if I go in the Premium, I can choose lighting above cabinets, under cabinets, inside wall cabinets, toe kicks. Heck, I can even go in here, like say under wall cabinet, tell it that I don't like puck lighting, I'd rather have strip lighting. I can make those changes. Now, if this does not work on your system, like you go into your 2020 and you look up here under items and you don't see Lighting Wizard, here's why. You haven't downloaded the Sensio catalog, S-E-N-S-I-O. Make sure that you go to 2020.net, download that catalog, load it into your 2020 like you would any cabinet manufacturer's catalog, and it will be active. And you, just like I'm doing right now, will always just be able to click on it, say, I want to put under cabinet lighting on it, click OK, and it'll be done in 2 or 3 seconds. Again, saving you time and money. The other item here that I was talking about is Countertop Wizard. Now, you're going to ask me, why would you use Countertop Wizard when the other countertop option is faster? The reason is I'm trying to show a photorealistic image to a customer, but do it quickly. Now, if I come into Countertop Wizard and I click on stone, it'll actually bring up brands. Now, some of these brands are maybe you're not always using them in a budget kitchen, but if you click whatever brand you want to use, like I'm going to click on Cambria right now. If I click on Cambria, the cool thing about this is not only will it automatically design countertop for the room, but when I go to look at it, if I chose Berwyn, it would look like it's Berwyn. If I chose Britannica, it would look like it's Britannica. So by using this feature, it allows you to create that high-resolution photorealistic image that you need to close the deal, but it's limiting how much time that you're having to place into it because you're not having to manually do this. It adds these images automatically. Now, just like the Countertop Wizard that I mentioned just a moment ago, if you go to your 2020 and Countertop Wizard is not turned on, all right, Countertop Wizard is not turned on, you need to go to 2020.net, that's 2020.net, N-E-T, and you need to log into 2020, and you need to download 2 catalogs. You need to download the generic countertop catalog, Metric, and the generic countertop catalog, Imperial. If you're in Canada and you're not working in Imperial, or you're in the US and you're not working in Metric, doesn't matter. You have to load both, all right? Make sure you load both. At that point, you can download Silestone, Cambria, Metro Quartz, whomever else you want, and start creating photorealistic renderings with countertops just like that. Next, time savers. Bookmark your favorites. Now, I'm going to show you a couple really cool things. You might have seen me do the paint before, but the next 2 items you may not be aware of. So give me just a minute here. I'm going to go through 3 things in succession that really help you save time, but also to give you more information as you're working. So let's switch back over to our plan again. So we're going to go back over to our plan. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to drag this over to the left, and I'm actually going to choose my browser. And I want you to notice at the top of my browser, I actually have Faro and Ball open. I have Sherwin-Williams open. Okay? They're already open. I never waste any time trying to find my favorite companies. If you look at the side over here under favorites in my browser, I have created a folder called Work, and I have all of the websites that I use in my work every day already saved here. Now, I've kept this pretty generic for what we do. With my real computer, I have lots of brand-specific companies that I'm working with. But if I wanted Farrow & Ball, I would just click. If I wanted Sherwin-Williams, I would click. I want Valspar, I would click. I want Benjamin Moore, I would just click. And what would happen is we would end up going right to the website where I want, because if it's a budget kitchen, I can't afford to waste any time. I need to do it fast if I'm going to make money, right? So if I come in here and I say this wall right here, I'd like to double click on that wall, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit this wall. Oops, I grabbed the cabinet, so hold on just a second. Let's zoom in on it a little bit. So we will double click on the wall. We'll open up the wall, and I'm going to say I'd like to take that wall and I'd like to change its material. So I'm going to browse. You all are, I'm sure, are familiar with this screen. When you add textures, you have catalog textures, which are the generic textures in 2020. You have textures in the current design, which means they're textures we've already used. Like earlier today, I was playing around and I placed this interlaced tile on one of these walls. I was messing with the lighting to make sure the lighting looked good. And then there's also user texture library, and these are textures that you have imported. You'll notice that I've played around. I've imported some colors. I've imported some tile. I've imported scenery like Chicago and New York. I've imported synchronized embossed grain textured melamines, cements. I've imported lots and lots of images. And I do this all the time because that helps me create realism. But let me show you something that's pretty cool if you've never used this before. So I clicked on a wall and I said I wanted to paint it. If you're working with a customer and you want to make sure that they understand what the wall colors are going to look like and such, and you don't want to take a lot of time to do it, here's the best and most accurate way to do it. Bookmark, like I said, bookmark your favorite paint companies. For those of you who don't bookmark a lot, you simply click on the star and then you can bookmark, right? Now, I have bookmarked Sherwin-Williams, so I could pick a color. I could pick orange. I could pick yellow. I could pick green, whatever it's going to be. Actually, let me come back to yellow just to make it bright. But these are real Sherwin-Williams colors. This is SW1668. This one right here is SW6909. Now, watch. If I take my little eyedropper, see the eyedropper right here, I drag it over and I drop it right on this bright yellowish orange color. It actually captured it. This color is identical to this color. Anybody who's ever told me talk about manufacturers before, Sherwin-Williams has paid $1 gazillion to have professional photographers, marketing people, and so forth create the perfect image online to sell their paint. We as kitchen and bath professionals should be taking advantage of that investment. So if we simply take our eyedropper, drag it over, grab hold of that color, I can come in and I can actually name it. I can tell it what scale it's going to be. And when I click OK, not only will it save it to my profile, but when I click OK, if I click OK again and come back, if we take a quick look at that room, my wall's been painted Sherwin-Williams 6909. I think that's what I clicked on. That's the exact color. That's pretty cool. So by bookmarking and simply using the eyedropper, I'm saving time in my design, but I'm creating a realistic image for my customer, which at the end of the day is going to protect my margins because my customer is going to see what actually they're going to get in their room. If you set the right expectation up front, you have a happy customer in the end. So that's pretty cool. So that was the eyedropper feature. Now let's come back over. So we will switch back over to our tabs. So let me go back to the PowerPoint here again. We'll go to the next item, which is bookmarking accessories. Now, I'm going to stop for a second. I want everybody viewing this to write this down. I want you to write down 2020spaces.com. So I'll pause for a second. 2020spaces.com/2020 -decorative -items /. So again, 2020spaces.com /2020 -decorative -items /. Now, as you're wrapping up writing, I want you to pay attention to something. See this image on the right-hand side? Aren't these some good-looking mixers and toaster ovens and heater panels and so forth? Pretty realistic, right? These are standard in 2020. You may not realize it. Or if I switch back over to my 2020 again, let's go back into our floor plan. We'll make this full screen. There we go. You might realize that they're there, but you've gone over here to what's called 2020 Cloud before, and you see that there's a 2020 catalog. So you click on the catalog. There's also catalogs in here like Decor and Electrolux and Kohler and such. But you might click on that, and then you might click on this arrow and go, man, look at all of these categories. It'll take me days to figure out what's in these categories. No worries. Matter of fact, let me switch over. I'm going to switch over to a little bit better plan just for a second. So let's switch over here because I'm going to actually add something to a room, and I want you to check it out when I do that. So let's make this a little bit larger. Let's go ahead and switch now over to our browser, which is where we were just looking at paint a moment ago. We'll make this full screen. You'll notice that I have a tab called 2020 Decorative Items, right? If you look on the right-hand side here, if I come over to my favorites, 2020 Decorative Items is actually the first one on my favorites list in my browser. Now, why do I do that? I do that because 2020 adds new shapes, new people, new apples, new chairs, new decorative items, and so forth every day. And when you come through here, you'll see that there's more and more and more items in the 2020 catalog. If I come down here just to show you some realism, look at these cutlery tray dividers. Look at things like, look how realistic the apples are in this bowl. That's what really makes the images pop and excites your customer. You want to be able to have this realism, but you want to be able to do it fast. So the first thing that I recommend that you do is that you bookmark the accessories so that you can go through a browser and check out which ones you really like. If you come over here, see what it says kitchen items? I can go through anytime I want and pick another category. For instance, I could come up here and go to general items. And when it opens up, you'll see everything from bikes to books to bookshelves to books to go on bookshelves to dresses and shoes and purses, things like that to go in a closet. There's tons and tons and tons of these decorative items, including, if I come back up here again to the top, including categories like people. You can actually put very realistic people into the renderings today, including pets. So bookmark it so that you know which ones you like. And then what I recommend you do, remember I did this earlier. If we switch back over to our 2020, remember earlier I talked about the drag and drop? And I said you could create your own idea center. You could actually create favorite decorations, simply drag them from the cloud and save them here, and then have them ready to go and use anytime you want without having to search for them in the cloud. Here's an example of one I use all the time. I like to put people in my renderings. So I'll come down here and I'll choose this gentleman here holding his daughter. I'll drag the gentleman and his daughter over here. Let's go ahead and say we place them in the room. We'll just move them around a little bit. And if I pop back down to the bottom of my screen and I open up my rendering, let's open up my rendering. Oops, hold on a second. It hasn't loaded yet. That was my fault. Let's go ahead and we'll minimize this. Let it finish loading. There we go. Now I can go look at my rendering, and you'll see that it adds the people to the room. Now, not only will it add people to the room, but we can go through and we can add photorealistic dogs. I can add photorealistic, pots and pans and all those items. But the key to that is actually coming over here to the drag and drop and saving them in that catalog that you created in the favorites section of your 2020. So awesome. So let me go ahead and switch. We're going to switch back over to our other plan. So let's go back to the budget plan. That's great. We'll come back in here and we will switch right back in again. And let's go over to, let's see, our PowerPoint. There we go. Now, in our PowerPoint, we'll pop back down here and you'll see in our PowerPoint, time is expensive and render in the backgrounds. Anybody know what a QR code is? I'll give everybody a second. All right. If you're not familiar with the QR code, you can actually open your phone up right now. You could go into, if you went into search your phone or over to the applications, the apps on your phone, you will find, no matter what kind of phone you have, that you will have some sort of QR code reader. That's Q, the letter Q, and R, okay, QR code reader. What that allows you to do is you can literally click on your reader. And right now, while I'm talking, and if you're watching this in video, you can pause the frame, take your phone, and if you click on QR code reader and you highlight you highlight that image right there. What will happen is it'll automatically take you online to an image of a kitchen, a 360-degree image. Now, there's a couple of things that you can do to really save time in your design. Number one is when you are in your design, so let's go through here and let's go into our design. So let's go into this design for a second. You'll see that there's a button right here that's called 360 Panorama. If I click on 360 Panorama, this allows me to save my kitchen in a 360-degree view. That's something that can be viewed on somebody's cell phone, somebody's iPad or such. You simply pick where you want to stand, and you pick what quality you want it to be. And a lot of you are probably using this for years and didn't realize this. There's actually a Facebook sharing feature now. You can put a checkbook next to this, and this will load into a folder on your Facebook page. And that way future clients can come in and check out all of your kitchens or your previous kitchens and baths. Now, here's the key to this, all right? You create a 360. The 360 gives you a URL. It'll say www./ and some letters and numbers to indicate where the kitchen is that you designed on the web. That URL, you can go online to a QR code generator. Write that down, QR code, C-O-D-E, generator. If you Google that, there's lots of free generators out there where you can put that URL in, and when you click that, 2 seconds later, you'll be able to look at your screen, and when you look at your screen, there will be this little QR code that can be scanned by anybody's phone. So how would you use that? It's pretty cool. If you notice, this is a countertop. You could actually print that out, put your company name and logo and so forth on it. You can have these sitting around your showroom. So as your customers are trying to make decisions, you could have them walk around the showroom with their phone, scan this, and they would be able to see your previous work and your previous ideas. Islands that you really liked, maybe it's color combinations in a room or such. But they can literally walk around your showroom and simply scan that on their phone, and they can stand in the middle of your showroom and turn 360 degrees and see your previous plan. That's pretty awesome because if you think about it, if you have them do that, when they leave your showroom, it's still on their phone, which means tonight, when they're sitting in bed watching TV and dreaming about what they should do next in their remodel, they can bring their phone up and they're still looking at your work. That's a great way to connect. So all you have to do is what I showed you before, which was when you're in a rendering, click on 360, tell it where to stand, and hit publish. It will create that rendering. Now, you may notice that in the background here, in the background of this slide, I also wrote render in the background. And what that means is that you don't have to wait for it to render because it might take 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes to render something that complicated. You don't have to worry about that. It'll render in the background and you'll be able to keep right on working. It'll take 10 or 15 seconds to set up, so just be patient. Once it sets up, you can go back to doing more design work, opening a different plan, doing your email, whatever else you need to do on the computer. 2020 will build that image in the background. But I'm going to tie this to something else in just a second because, again, we're talking about saving time. Now, let's go back over to the Whoops, I was already in the PowerPoint, wasn't I? Okay. So let's go to the next one, which is the learning centers. I talked again about being more efficient in what you do. If you haven't been doing this in 2020, you need to be checking out our help section. There's lots of things in here from live chats with support to watching videos of your favorite features. There's also a feature in here called Knowledge Center. This is fairly new. It's one of my favorite features. If I click on Knowledge Center will open up here, and this will tell you the most popular topics right now. You'll see how do you create a waterfall countertop? How do you change your title block and logo? How do you create a cathedral ceiling? These items are listed here. But you can also type in subjects. For instance, if I type in shortcut, okay, shortcut, watch. This will come up and say, here are the most frequently used shortcuts in 2020. Here's the easiest way to create and modify your multipliers in 2020. I can actually click on this. It'll take me right to the article or the steps, and this will show me all my favorite shortcuts. For instance, most people know that Control C is cut, Control V is paste. Control C is copy, Control V is paste, Control X is cut. But a lot of people don't realize the Control A selects everything. So if I'm working on a floor plan and I want to mirror it or flip it, I simply hit Control A on my keyboard. Matter of fact, the fastest users of 2020 that I see are the people who use shortcuts on the keyboard all the time. I'm personally not a keyboard guy. I have a handful that I like to use, but as I watch people work, it just blows me away how fast they work by knowing the shortcuts. Now, how do you learn the shortcuts? You simply, again, go to, back into our 2020, you simply go in here, you go over to Help, click on Knowledge Center, and when we clicked on Knowledge Center, I simply typed in the word shortcut. It took me to that information. It's all about being better at what you do. So let's go back over to the PowerPoint here, and you'll see I actually pasted the shortcuts here. So if you're watching the video later, you can actually stop it and just see the shortcuts. Now, let's go to the next. Let's talk a little bit about the design, and that's what we're going to take the last 15 minutes and talk about here. So we talked about product, right? We said that, you can save money for your client, give them better results by understanding your products, where they fit the customer's need better, about speed, about quality, and price, right? We did that. We talked about how you can provide better budget kitchens by saving you and your company money by reducing the amount of time that you invest in those jobs. You're not making as much on those jobs, so you can't afford to spend as much time on those jobs. That's important. The next part is, how do you really value design product? There's certain little things that you can do in a kitchen that are just going to, on average, save money for your clients. So let's think about this first. I'm going to give you some advice, but before I do that, here's the biggest issue that I run into with companies competing for a value customer, but they're actually losing money at the end. And here is one of the biggest reasons. We all have to identify wants versus needs. Your customer wants one thing, they really need this. They're going to pay somewhere in the middle, and you have to be able to understand and recognize what is really needed versus what they want and what will fit within their budget. That's really hard. But to me, that's not the hardest part when I'm working in the design community. The hardest part is not the customer. To me, it's actually us. Because we have all of these really awesome and cool ideas to do in the room that simply makes the room more and more and more expensive. We have to weigh our wants versus the customer need. I had somebody I was talking to the other day, and his comment to me was, he makes money because he doesn't over-design. And he has to tell himself every day in a budget kitchen, don't over-design, don't over-design. Does the customer really need a super lazy Susan in every case? No, they don't. Sometimes you're just going to put a dead corner in because that's the job that you're trying to get and you're trying to meet the budget. So it's important to be able to understand that you have to separate your wants from the customer needs. Now let's talk a little bit more about value. I just mentioned don't over-design. Complexity is costly. Also, structurally, keep in mind, if it's budget, you want to do everything you can to limit changing the room itself. You don't want to tear walls out. You don't want to move plumbing. You don't want to move electrical and gas lines. Those things cost money. One of the things that I've noticed that's happening a lot more is some simple structural changes, especially when you see people flipping homes and other type of budget environments. There's some minor, let's say, structural adjustment, but a lot of times what they're doing is they're actually taking the room adjacent to the kitchen and expanding the living space into that room. Typically, there's some sort of dining room near there, and very few of us actually use dining rooms anymore. So they expand that kitchen family living space into that room without making many structural changes. The other thing that I've noticed in a couple showrooms recently that I think is pretty cool is it's about controlling. Remember I talked in the beginning about controlling selections, controlling options. The more options you give somebody, the more time it's going to take them to decide what they want. And time is going to cost you money. So you need to save that time. So what they do is in the showroom, they'll have a section that is trend-centric. It's trend-focused. And they'll take a section and maybe just have vignettes. I've seen lots of different ways to design this. Some of them actually do them in photos on a wall. They'll have them side-by-side, full height type photos to show these. But they'll have a section, they'll say, okay, shaker door is really popular today. So I know that 70% of my sales right now are a flat panel door. So I'm not going to waste my time putting a square raised panel door on that wall. I'm going to put a flat panel door in. And then I know that 45% of my sales are white. So I'm going to take one of these sections in the showroom, and I'm going to do white walls, white base cabinets. I'm going to pick a tile that's affordable and looks great. Why? Because you are doing this. You're the expert. You're the designer. You're the creative one. The customer came to you for that type of advice. Do it. Use your opinion. Put that tile in here that's affordable but looks great. Put a nice countertop in, affordable that looks great. And then right next to it, put another unit. But this time, white walls, navy blue bases. The last 2 years, white and navy blue have been really hot, right? That's trend on. Next year, it might not be so. Maybe we change that. Also hot right now are gray. Maybe it's a gray base and a white wall. But again, you're giving the client the ability to look really quick at something that's trend on. So you pick the colors, the door style, again, the affordable tile and the backsplash and the affordable countertop. And then next to it, you put another one. Java and Java, espresso and espresso, whatever they call their dark brown color with its tile and its countertop. I've gone into showrooms, and there'll be 6 to 8 of these. And what's nice about these is you know what? Next year, white on white is still going to be popular. Maybe you change the backsplash out, but you don't have to change the whole display out. But maybe next year, nobody's buying blue anymore. Okay, take this one display out. The other 5 are still good, but your customer can walk up and make quick decisions. Again, it's about making that decision process fast. And here's something else that's pretty cool. Remember a couple slides back, I showed the QR code. You know where I really saw that QR code to begin with? It was a situation like this, a trend-centric showroom. They actually had little counter signs with QR codes here. So if they had a white and blue kitchen, they could actually scan with their phone the QR code, and it took the client right to one of their real white and navy blue kitchens that they had designed. So the client could stand right in front of that display, hold their phone to their eyes, turn right and left, and be immersed in that room. Pretty cool. Very cost effective because it's built into your software anyway. You just need to scan the code and print out the little, print out the piece of paper and put it in a $4 stand on top of that countertop. Pretty simple. Now, also, you can save a lot of time by creating folders. Remember I told you cost-effective tile? A lot of budget designers will keep a group of products that they will use over and over again that they know are cost-effective yet quality for their customer. As an example of that, if we go back in here and we take, let's say we take our plan again. So, whoops, did that wrong. That was my mistake. There we go. We'll go in here, and I'm going to take this wall right here, and I have an elevation already open in this wall. So we'll come in here, and we'll look at this wall. I painted this wall yellow, but let's say that we go up here to items, and I choose surface, and I'm going to put tile right here, right? So we'll come across. We'll put tile. We'll pop down here. We'll pop over here to the left, and I'm going to add some tile. Now, one of the things you're going to notice, just like before, remember when I painted, I showed you that I could hit browse, and then we could come in here and choose our paint or our tile or such. You see it says textures in current design, user textures in library. These are all tiles that I've already imported. And you might notice something. You might notice that I'll go up here and click on this folder and say, I want to look at more tile. Well, when I click it, it takes me to a folder of tile that I have already saved. So where did I get this tile from? This is real tile. I keep folders of materials that I want to reuse. So what I'll do is see where it says Documents. That's my Documents folder on my computer. I have a folder called 2020 Files. We all do. I have a folder called My Texture. And if I click on that, anytime I want, I can just right-click in this list. I can go down here to New, and I can call this one the webinar folder, okay? I can create a brand new folder for any type of product that I want. And if you look down here, there's now a webinar folder that I can put product in. There's nothing in there right now. But if I go back to my wall tile, you'll see that all my wall tiles are there. So how do I populate this? Pretty simple. If we come back over here to our browser, so I'm going to go back into our browser. I already have a tile folder open. And you'll see that I have lots of backsplash tiles. These are real tiles. I can simply take any tile that I want and right-click on it. For instance, I can right-click on that tile. Again, the tile company has spent a lot of money making a photorealistic image that we can leverage for our designs. I just need to take advantage of it. So I right-click, I choose Picture or Save Picture As. It's going to pop up and ask me where to save it. If it didn't automatically go to my folder, I could have simply browsed, found the folder with wall tile. Since I use this one all the time, it automatically pops up. I'll simply click Save. Now, I want you to remember this tile. Remember, it's the gray interlaced tile. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. If we come back in here now, so let's say we go back in here now, we'll go back over to my 2020, and let's go back into our plan. You'll see that I'm into my textures. If I hit refresh, that tile is now one of my options. I'll click it. We'll click Open. There's my tile. We'll click OK, and I will click OK one more time. And if we go back and take a quick look at our image, you'll see that that tile, oops, you know what, I must not have saved it, but that tile would have been there automatically, would have placed that tile there. I'm sorry, I must not have saved it when I came back out of there. So again, how I did that was I went through and I traced it, I double clicked on it, and then I simply went into the texture and I added the tile to it. And I can save that in those folders to use over and over again. So let's come back out of here again. So let's go through, let's go back down, and let's start to wrap this up. Let's talk real quick in the last 5 minutes about some design things that will always help you save more money. Number one, when you're designing, use larger cabinets. A base 36 is cheaper than 2 base 18s. A base 39 is cheaper than using a base 24 and a base 15. Cheaper is the wrong word. They're more cost effective to your customer. But man, if you're trying to save a couple bucks to get that job, use larger cabinets where you can, and that'll make a difference. Floating shelves. One of the cool things right now is a lot of customers are asking for floating shelves in their design. Well, guess what? A floating shelf is a lot less money than a wall cabinet is. So when you're using floating shelves along the wall, you're actually saving money because you're not installing wall cabinets. You're not buying wall cabinets to go in that space. Again, it's a really trend-on, good-looking method of saving money in the room. Limit drawers. Let me come back out of here again. Let's go back over here to my 2020, and you'll see I'm in an elevation right now. These two plans are exactly alike size-wise. They're 60 inches, 60 inches. You'll notice down here that I have 2 base cabinet 30s. Over here, I have 2 drawer bases. If we were to price these drawer bases would be significantly more expensive than the base 30s. There's drawer boxes, there's drawer guides, there's drawer clips, there's all sorts of things going on that cost a lot more money. I do understand that wide drawers are really popular, but if it's a budget kitchen, you have to ask yourself, can they afford those, or can I limit how many of those I'm actually placing in the room? Next, dead corners. I am not a fan of dead corners. I can tell you that right now. Not a fan of dead corners at all, but there's certainly a lot of situations today where somebody's really trying to limit the budget on a kitchen. And what a dead corner is instead of using a corner cabinet, you're putting 2 fillers in the corner. You might actually sometimes, depending on the cabinet door style, maybe even be able to drag a cabinet almost all the way up to that filler as well, reducing the cost similarly. Not a big fan of this, but it will save you money when you have to. Premium finishes on traditional overlay doors. Traditional overlay doors, just so we're all speaking the same language here, you have a full overlay door that virtually covers the entire face frame. Obviously, if you're in frameless, it's always going to be full overlay. But if you're in a frame product, a traditional overlay door is typically 5 to 8% less. Now, if you're working with a customer, all right, a customer who wants a premium finish, your premium finishes might be 5, 10, 15% above your regular stain finishes. I see a lot of designers today when somebody's asking for premium finishes and they know they're really on a tight budget and the customer's really looking for that finish more than they are anything else, they'll move them to a traditional overlay door because it reduces the cost base of the cabinets by 5 to 8%, which will make up for almost all of the upcharge for the premium finish. So that's a great little tip sometimes to get that job and be able to provide the client the finish that they're actually looking for. Paint wall cabinets and base cabinets. Now here's something that's pretty cool. This is actually a picture of a home I was in the other day. Wall cabinets are painted white. the base cabinets are stained gray. In most cases, paint costs more than stain. So in this case, instead of painting an entire kitchen, and maybe it's a 10% premium, you're only adding a 10% premium on the wall cabinets, no premiums on the base cabinets. So it's a cool little way to save money. And best of all, that's trend on. This type of design is really hot right now, having different color bases or different color islands. Sometimes when somebody wants a really cool premium finish, they'll simply put it on the island and they'll leave the rest of the cabinets along the wall stain, again, being more cost effective in the design. Now, a couple of other quick things, and then we're going to stop right here. Choose door styles that do not require hardware. Lots of door styles out there, especially more contemporary door styles, already are eased on the top and bottoms of the doors where you do not need, or they might even have some sort of a J-pull or something like that where you do not need hardware. That will save you money. And a lot of people overlook things like stacked moldings and 39-inch high wall cabinets. So let me give you two quick examples of that. If we come in here and we take a quick look, I'm going to bring down my my elevation. Okay, so right now I'm in the same plan that we were just in a moment ago where I showed you the drawers. I want you to notice something. These are identical plans, same size, I should say. Here is a kitchen that has a 96-inch ceiling with 42-inch high wall cabinets. Over here, we have a 96-inch ceiling with 39-inch high wall cabinets. Why is that more cost effective? Well, number one, 39s are usually a little bit less money, so that's number one. But number two, it's an aesthetic thing. If you have 42-inch high wall cabinets and a 96-inch ceiling, we all know when we remodel, the ceilings are not even. Sometimes they'll be a quarter-inch low, half-inch low, sometimes an inch low. So you have cabinets that aren't lining up properly, or you have to drop the overall cabinets down. When you're using a 39, you're actually leaving yourself a 3-inch gap here at the top that you can pin a one-piece crown molding on, which will take out the changes in height on the ceiling. Plus, the installer's only pinning one piece of molding. They can actually chalk a line for the wall cabinets and then simply pin a piece of molding across the top one piece, and it's done, and it's very cost effective. Another option would be, let's say you had a 9-foot ceiling. Now, in a 9-foot ceiling, you don't think it's much as big a deal because there's a lot of open space above. But there is. If you look at a 9-foot ceiling and you're using a 42-inch high cabinet versus a 39, the 42 only leaves 12 inches of space, which is visually what we all want to see, a 12-inch space, right? It is. But your client's going to ask for a piece of crown to be pinned at the top of the cabinet. Well, if I go back down here, so let me scroll down to one of my catalogs real quick. So we'll come up here to one of the sample catalogs. I'll say sample F. We'll go through and we'll grab a piece of molding. So we'll say a top molding, and let's put a piece of crown in, and let me show you what happens. If I drag a piece of crown in, this is like a 3 1/4 piece of crown. I just placed it. I'm going to drag a 3 1/4 piece of crown over here, and I'm going to drag and I'm going to place it. What you're going to notice is, let me do that again. We're going to place that. So let's go ahead and place that. What you're going to notice is, if you really pay attention, I'm going to move this over just a little bit. Your 12-inch space now becomes 9 or less. My 15-inch space is actually 12. So if you're using a 39, the 39 is less money. If you're using the same piece of crown, it visually or aesthetically gives the client the right look at the top of the cabinets. If we go through and we actually measure this, I'm going to say line to line. How far is it from the piece of the molding to the ceiling? It's 8 3/4 inches. Over here, what's the distance? It's going to be 11 3/4 of an inch. That's what we as designers expect. That's what's good visually for your customer, and you saved a little bit of money too. Pretty cool. So let's go back over to wrapping this up. You can always, again, use the existing items in the kitchen. We don't need to trash everything in the house. We can reuse floors or repurpose other items in the room to save in value on that overall job. And I want to end with the words efficiency, quality, speed, and cost. Because at the end of the day, right, if you're going to sell a budget kitchen, you need to be more efficient. You need to provide great quality. You need to be able to go to market fast, so there's less hands touching the product, less cost involved, and you need to be able to drive the cost of the overall project down. That's what makes you successful. So I'm going to end with a couple of tips right here. I'm just going to bring them up on the screen. Here's a couple of things I want everybody to keep in mind as we end. Number one, everybody online with me right now is a professional. People spend money to get your opinion. And you know what? Anybody that comes to you and uses you and one of your professional installers will save money automatically. Why? You're going to prevent them from making all the mistakes. You're going to let them know the things that they don't know. I can tell you I know a lot of things about kitchens, but there's certainly a lot of things I've done in my house that cost me 3 times as much because I'm not an expert in it, and I have to redo it over and over and over again. I can't tell you how many trips I have to make to a store. I am no different than anybody else who's trying to do remodeling in their home. If all of us would invest in a professional like the people in this line, it would make the job less money right up front. Number 2, speed to market. We talked earlier. Less touches. The less people that touch it, the less time that's involved in your products, the less money is invested in those products. So it's a lower cost to your customer. That's really, really important, that time value. Number 2, if it's speed to market, that also allows you to leverage your finances better. If you don't have to pay for something that you have to wait for 6 weeks, if you pay for something today that you get tomorrow, well, guess what? You don't have to order it until the very end, which allows you to maintain or control your cash flow better. So that gives you a great advantage in reducing the budget as well when you design. And of course, you not just need to save money up front, you need to prevent from having what a lot of people call margin erosion, meaning you sold the job, somebody installs it, but then afterwards you have to go do extra work, which means you're spending more money and you didn't make as much money as you thought you were going to make. How do you prevent that from happening? Number 1 is you provide realistic expectations. That means great renderings that look like the kitchen your customer's about to get, because if you set the right expectation up front, they're going to be happy in the end. That'll save you money. Preventing errors. Every time you commit an error in a job, it costs you somewhere between 3 and 4 times the cost of the product that you made the error on. That erodes what you expected from your profitability in your company. Prevent errors. Number 3, manage those schedules. Again, time is so valuable. And number 4, eliminate callbacks. You know, a lot of people make the mistake of going out and saying, I have to do budget, which means I need cheap product. That's not the case. You need good quality product that has that is at a value price point. That's really where you need to be focused, because you need product that goes into your client's home that you don't have to go visit them again. If you have to go through callbacks, again, you're not making the money that you thought you were going to. And in a budget kitchen, there's not a whole lot of profit there. You can't afford that. So you need to make sure the customers understand the value of you as a professional, understand what speed to market is and how important it is to be fast and accurate. And number 3, make sure you're protecting your profits. Make sure the choices you make are in alignment with the amount of money you expected to make from the job. That makes for a happy customer. That makes for a happy designer. That makes for a happy kitchen and bath design firm. So I'm going to wrap up here. I know I'm a couple minutes over, but it was a lot of information. A couple of things I want to wrap up with everybody is, number 1, this is a free webinar, which I mentioned is recording. We have tons and tons and tons of free webinars. There's another great webinar in 2 weeks on millennials versus boomers, and I personally can't wait to go watch. I'm not doing that one. I can't wait to watch that as a participant. We also share information through social media. You see hashtag Tip Tuesday, hashtag Knowledge Wednesday, hashtag Sunday Readings. Please pay attention to what we're doing, because we're trying to provide information not just about design software, but about the industry, the community that we all work, the great community that we all work in. Next, I want to mention learning. I talked before about how important it is that you be the best at what you do. If you're the best at what you do, you're going to make more money. Well, being the best at what you do means learning every day. This is a free webinar, but we have some phenomenal in-person classes that Katya and Vanessa and Rachel put together, or Raquel, I'm sorry, put together all the time for us. And I can tell you that, you know, as somebody who's been in the community for years, I'm just blown away by the response and how pleased everybody is when they go to one of our training schools. So reach out to us at 2020spaces.com/training/. And for those of you that are not currently a 2020 user, you're welcome to go to our e-commerce center. You can actually sign up right online for a free trial. to try the software. So if you are not a user or you are a user and you've got a buddy or friend who's thinking about getting into the business, please go to our website. Happy to hook you up with a free trial. And again, provide great content like you saw today. And if you have any further questions, always seek us out at 2020spaces.com, plus all of our social media outlets. And again, that's 2020spaces.com. And with that, I am going to end the session. Thanks for continuing to make yourself, your businesses, and your clients better. And we all look forward to you joining us in our next session. So thanks, and everybody have a great rest of your day.